almost afternoon to you all. I am so delighted to see the room full of people and the hum of great ideas being shared. I hope you continue to enjoy your lunch. Who doesn't love a taco, right? It's the most popular lunch around, I think. Thank you all for being here. But more than that, thank you for the work that you do in your communities, in your research, and in your teaching to help us improve the lives of people living in rural Indiana. We are so grateful to have a team of partners like you all, and it really is like Thanksgiving for us to bring you all together and to be able to share ideas around tables and around slide decks over the past couple of days. So thank you for being with us. I also want to say a thank you to the servers and to the staff that have helped prepare this food for us. They've been taking such good care of us over the past 2 days. Can we give them a hand? We, as you know, were founded about a year ago at the Center for Rural Engagement, but it really was the result of the brainchild of Provost Lauren Robel that we opened sample gates to the communities around us. And Lauren has continued to have her hand and her incredibly innovative brain involved in the center's work. We're very privileged to have a provost at Indiana University who is so innovative and so community driven. Lauren Robel was named Provost of Indiana University, Bloomington, and Executive Vice President of IU in 2012. She's the Val Nolan Professor of Law in the Maurer School of Law, where she served as Dean from 2002 to 2011, and as Associate Dean from 1991 to 2002. In fall 2013, Robel initiated a strategic planning process aimed at reimagining and reinvigorating academic programs across the Bloomington campus in anticipation of Indiana University's Bicentennial 2020. Robel's Bicentennial Strategic Plan for IU Bloomington includes other ambitious plans for the Bloomington campus, such as the now named Eskenazi School of Art and Design, a new program in engineering with our School of Informatics, Computing and Engineering, and the integration of health sciences programs into a new on-campus regional academic health center. Among her inspired initiatives, the IU Center for Rural Engagement was established in March 2018, following the Patel study, which we've heard a lot about today. Local listening tours were also included and regional coordination. Provost Robel's vision has launched a deep arts and humanities engagement in Indiana's rural communities, along with the center's other focus areas in health and resilience. Please join me in welcoming Provost Robel.
Thanks so much, Carrie. It is so great to see this room full of people. I know that when this particular group of people gets together, it leads directly to innovation and to more great ideas and the kind of work that we can do together. I know that just from the fact that you're here in this room today, you care very deeply about the future of our region and the future of our communities and the people in them. And that you are hopeful that we can work together to build a bright future for the communities we all love. And I'm especially proud to have so many people from IU down here today, and really grateful for all the members of the communities and the community leaders who are with us today at French Lick. What a beautiful day to take a drive down from Bloomington. Really, almost every day is a beautiful day to take a drive down from Bloomington. Well, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to report on the work of Indiana University Center for Rural Engagement at about its first anniversary. I'm proud of the work the university is doing through the center in partnership with the many, many communities and organizations in our region, in our wonderful part of the state. And I'm happy to have the chance to talk about what's happened during this past year. Just about a year ago, we were blessed to have the support of the Lilly Endowment to think through all of the ways in which Indiana University might make a difference in the rural areas and smaller cities in our part of the state. IU is the state's largest research university, the largest employer in our region, and one, I'll just say it, one of the best universities in the entire world. So as the provost of IU, I know the breadth and the quality of the research, teaching, and service that happens on our campus. I know the work that our dedicated and talented faculty and staff do every single day on health, medicine, nursing, technology, education, business, natural resources, government, and law. I know the quality of the arts programs on our campus, from the world-famous Jacobs School of Music to, just gonna say, the again world-famous Eskenazi Museum of Art, the IU Cinema, the IU Auditorium, and the amazing libraries, including the Lilly Library, which I'm just, every time I mention Lilly, I have to say one fun fact about that library. We have in that library George Washington's letter accepting the presidency of the United States. Now, why do we have it? Why isn't it in the Smithsonian? Well, that's a good question that I'm not going to answer. Just be happy we do. I also know the commitment and investment that IU has made in addressing what we call the grand challenges, unlocking the power of genetic medicine to cure cancer and prevent diabetes and early onset Alzheimer's, using our great scientists to predict and help us adapt to climate change, and putting our health professionals to work in battling opioid addiction. And I know that you heard a lot about at least that last topic yesterday on a panel at this very conference. And I know that thousands of IU students are oriented towards community service. That's what they hope and dream to be able to do. And they provide many hundreds, really thousands of hours of work in areas as diverse as social work and nursing to business and information technology. I also, as Carrie mentioned, spent many months traveling around our region with our great partners in the Regional Opportunity Initiative and what was at the time the Applied Research Initiative, talking to leaders about why they love their communities, what their hopes and dreams are for the places they live, and what issues their communities faced. Access to health care and legal services, quality of place, ongoing professional development for teachers in the schools, environmental resilience and water quality, just to name a few. I knew that IU had many resources to offer on those issues, and I could see others that we could develop, like a master's in social work, in addiction and mental health, or increase capacity in our nursing program. What I didn't know, though, was whether IU and the communities that I had visited could find sustainable and impactful ways to work together. Would communities open their doors to our faculty, staff, and students? Would the IU community be engaged and energized to think about the challenges of our region and to work to address them? And could we build true partnerships between the university and the region? Partnerships that would last beyond a single project on a single day. Well, the answer to all of those questions has been yes, 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 yes. A resounding yes. In its first year of operation, the Center for Rural Engagement has worked with over 1,500 residents in over 35 communities to identify the issues, large and small, that would form the nucleus of our partnerships. At IU, we recruited over 150 faculty members to provide research and classes directly relevant to rural well-being. In partnership, we launched over 100 research, creative activity, and teaching initiatives directly focused on community-identified challenges, involving every one of Bloomington's academic schools and major disciplines. And we mobilized over 1,000 students to work directly in communities through nearly 50 classes that provided wonderful deliverables on topics the communities requested and needed. Those are big numbers, but what does this kind of engagement mean on the ground? It means that in a year, and in a time when everyone knows how important this is, our faculty and students have doubled the number of clinical social work hours IU provides in our communities, from 35,000 to nearly 70,000 a year. These are students providing support to children in our schools who face challenging circumstances, and on mental health and addictions counseling in our communities. It means that we have added a program that works directly with patients in their homes to provide 500 hours of nursing care under the supervision of Professor Greg Carter, an expert in rural healthcare delivery. These students have helped patients with diabetes test and manage their A1C levels to improve their health, and have helped them evaluate the safety of their homes. Work that changes the lives of the students, or the patients for sure, but really changes the lives of the students. Deflects perhaps and makes more open the possibility of working in communities that need their work. It has meant that the center has led over 16 health workshops for community leaders, health professionals, and teachers, bringing the best information on topics ranging from mental health and trauma-informed care, addictions and substance use disorder, bullying and violence prevention, into our communities where it can be deployed. It means launching 30 health projects that include the comprehensive community health improvement plans that Professor Priscilla Barnes and Professor Carrie Doherty, nationally known experts on community health networks, and their graduate students, created in partnership with health professionals in Martin, Davies, Orange, and Lawrence County. It means launching 54 projects focused on community resilience, including research by IU's Indiana Geological and Water Survey, using monitoring equipment to test water quality and study how water flows through the karst aquifers that we know exist under the ground right here where we stand. The findings from this project will help the university and our state understand the impacts environmental change has had on our water sources, and inform municipalities on issues of treatment and policies to keep drinking water safe for Hoosier residents. It means a park, recreation, and protected land inventory and opportunity mapping project through IU's Epley Institute that created an inventory of all the parks, recreation activities, trails, waterways, and public lands in this beautiful Indiana uplands region. Through community interviews, the team, led by Epley's director, Steve Walter, has identified key needs and opportunities for regional recreation to increase tourism, improve health, and support quality of place in the region. It means forming a regional housing coalition to develop a workforce housing plan for Monroe, Owen, Greene, Orange, and Lawrence counties, with a focus on developing housing for varied income levels, In Orange County, Professor John Rasek and his students from the Eskenazi School of Art, Architecture, and Design have designed a plan for a home that can be built on vacant or blighted lots that will expand low-cost housing stock for workforce needs. Professor Kay Connolly and Professor Katie Seek from the School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering have developed technology to help people stay in their homes as they age, something that I think of every time I pass that sign coming here to French Lick from Bloomington, out in front of a house that says, I need to sell, I'm having to move to go into a nursing home. Altogether, the center has been able to launch over 20 faculty research projects focused on our region. And just in the fall semester, through IUCRE, which we developed to support IU student volunteer efforts, we were able to document and support just one semester over 250,000 hours of student volunteer time, providing a value of about $6 million to local communities. Finally, our Sustaining Hoosier Communities effort, which has completed intensive engagements with Lawrence and Orange counties, was recognized not only as the largest rural engaged teaching effort in the country, but also the best, when it won an international award this year as most outstanding program from the organization on which it was modeled. Not a bad year. Not a bad year. This engagement with the region has touched many lives, and some of the most moving and human work with communities has come in our Quality of Place initiatives. Led by Professor Ed Commentali, who you'll meet in the panel right after lunch, the IU Center for Rural Engagement has worked in partnership with communities not only to bring the treasures of IU out to our region, but to develop sustainable plans for the kinds of activity that make a community feel vibrant. The center has launched 15 Quality of Place projects in the arts, including the Rural Arts Series. That series has deeply connected us with 3 communities, Huntingburg, Nashville, and Salem, through community creative writing programming, IU Cinema film screenings, Traditional Arts Indiana exhibits, and master classes and performances with the Jacobs School of Music. The impact on participants, particularly young students in middle schools and high schools, has reaped excitement and praise from schools and communities alike. The center has completed 3 strategic plans in partnership with these communities to build arts capacity, working with the communities and with the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs, and created new academic programs to support these efforts, including a new certificate in rural arts administration, the very first one in the entire nation. What does this work mean in communities? Well, for one thing, it means singing. The Jacobs School of Music, Singing Hoosiers, and Department of Theater and Drama produced Hamiltunes, a family-friendly sing-along to the music of the hit musical Hamilton. The production engaged local choirs in Brown County Schools, Salem High School, Southridge High School Choir of Huntingburg, and at Bloomington North High School Choir, where the mayor sang along. I'm looking at you, Mayor Spinner. God gave you a voice. One of the center's community partners from Salem reported, "I ran into the family of one of the boys who sang the other night out in the hall. They've had a rough few years, and this gave them unvarnished joy and pride and hope." It means discovery. When Dr. Eric Smedley's symphonic band came to play with teacher Bonnie Harmon's band class in Salem, it meant students discovering instruments they'd never seen before, never experienced, with mentoring from the world-class students at the Jacobs School that led to a community performance that packed the house from many nearby communities. Ms. Harmon said that in her 30 years of teaching, she'd never experienced such a powerful program, and said Dr. Smedley's students had given her dreams to dream. It means creativity. When Professor J. Kim's interior design class traveled to Paoli to give their final presentation, the 16 students who'd been challenged to reimagine how Tim Schmidt's, Tim is an IU alum, old car shop and garage on Main Street could be converted into an art studio, gallery, and coffee shop. They presented their designs one by one inside the car shop, a tight and intimate setting for about 30 people. The community members talked with the students about their innovative solutions for reclaiming historical left-behind structures for a contemporary purpose. One aspect of the vision for a new creative economy being developed in Paoli by organizations like the Black Vulture Project. And as a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, the event was among one of the very first gallery showings in the space. Tim expressed deep gratitude for the effort the students invested in helping him expand what he had imagined. It means art. Heidi Davis Soilu, who leads the Eskenazi Museum of Art's education department, is collaborating with K-12 teachers on a project called Rural Teachers Engaging Art. This program works with teachers to develop programs we can lead together, both to support our teachers and to give our students access to whole new worlds of art. Teachers love this collaboration, and we do too, which allows us to give all our school children access to the treasures we hold in trust for the state of Indiana on the Bloomington campus. And they tell us, one of them told us, she was happily surprised that students could look at the artwork and not make art for the entire class period. In other words, it means joy. And all of this contributes to efforts by leadership in the region to nurture a sense of vibrancy in our communities, which in turn helps attract residents in Capital and keep young people in the region. As a former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development noted, in today's economy, capital and jobs follow people, and talent is mobile. And what that talent is looking for is quality of place, dynamic, diverse neighborhoods. That's why nurturing a vibrant arts community in our neighborhoods isn't just about amenities or entertainment. It's about economic development. It's about building communities that are successful, resilient, and economically vibrant. And if I may add, joyous. It's been an honor and a privilege for Indiana University to partner with our neighbors this first year, and the work we've done together gives me great hope for the future. Truly great universities are engaged universities, and the future of our region is brighter when we work together to find solutions to regional challenges. We have just begun. We have just begun. For us at Indiana University and the Center for Rural Engagement, and for the faculty, staff, and students who've made this first year great, we are grateful for the communities and the people who have opened the doors to their schools, to their homes, to their organizations, to us this past year. Thank you for that. I know these past 2 days have been a way for us to begin to dream even bigger for the next couple of years. And wow, do we look forward to doing that with you. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Professor Ed Commentali. Professor Commentali is a professor of English at Indiana University, although we don't give him much time to do that these days, an associate vice provost for research, and the creative genius behind the IU Arts and Humanities Council. He's also been leading the Center for Rural Engagement's Quality of Place initiative, and in that role, he's deeply engaged in our region. Please join me in welcoming Ed Comentali.
Thank you, folks. It's such a pleasure to be here and to be able to talk about this work that makes us all so proud at IU. And I really welcome responses. We'll have a small chance for conversation at the end of the panel. Well, please feel free to get in touch with us at any time after this talk. I am a little jittery. I have a 7-year-old son, and I told him this morning that I was jittery about the lunchtime presentation. And he said, well, what are they eating? And I said, I think it's tacos. And he said, tell them you got a taco about the arts. And I was like, okay, not bad. And then he said, how about you tell them that you're gonna get jalapeno business about the arts? And I was like, okay, that's not bad, Jimmy. This kid's so innocent. When you say dad jokes, he thinks that's an awesome thing. He thinks they're jokes told by dads. He loves that. Okay, so I'm here to talk about the Quality of Place initiative. Is this the okay, it's the green button. And there we go. Okay, so I'm a team leader, but this is definitely a group effort. And when I talk about this stuff, we're talking about a wonderful collaboration, not only between administrators, faculty, and students at IU, but our incredible town and community partners. And that's really what I want to stress today. We started this process with a very, very long, what I'm calling a listening tour. We knew that we just had a lot to learn. And it's really a truism in arts administration that you have to listen to community members. You have to listen to people. You have to hear about their hopes. You have to hear about their fears and their goals. And this is particularly true in a state like Indiana, which is notoriously reticent in many ways and really humble about the things that make their communities great. And so we wanted to go in there all years. That was our plan. And for about 2 years, we toured through southern Indiana, meeting with city officials, educators, arts programmers, students, families. We wanted to know what made these towns tick. What did they consider valuable in their heritage? And you know, it's daunting to have a giant university like IU all of a sudden descend upon your town of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people and say, we want to help you. That is not an easy situation to respond to. And we really had to change our methods over time, change the way that we spoke with communities to really get at the work that we wanted to do. I remember one very early conversation with the parks director in Salem, Indiana. We were talking about a group of young people who wanted to build a bike path. And residents were stopping them. They did not like the idea of a bike path. They could imagine all sorts of horrific scenarios that a bike path could cause in their town. And I really wanted to get to the bottom of this. I go, well, what's the problem? And she said, well, they're just afraid of the change. And I said, the change to what? Well, the change to the way that they live. And I go, what does that mean? And she said, they want to protect what's here. And I said, well, what's here? And complete silence in the room. And that's not a failure, but it's typical of the early conversations we had. And we had to figure out a way and change our vocabulary and change our approach and really stop talking like professors and start talking and interacting with people like neighbors. We really had to become neighbors to these communities to show that we were reliable, to show that we were committed, to show that we really wanted to work on this together. And the listening tour for us was all about building trust in these towns. And I have to say, I love starting with these slides because these are our friends, these are our partners in these communities. These are the people that we talk to and meet with. We attend their markets, we attend their festivals, we go to their schools, we buy their yeast bread when we're in Salem at the farmer's market. We consider these people our deep and considered partners throughout this endeavor. That's how we started. And really, for many of us on the team, the Quality of Place team, we feel more connected to the state and the region that we live than we have ever in the past. So as we engage with the communities, we began to realize, as many of you have and know about, kind of regional issues that are common to Southern Indiana and common to many other small towns across America. We begin to see patterns and limitations, restrictions in the kind of work that we do. Certainly communications, lack of communications, and lack of transportation, they're obvious problems in the communities that we deal with. I mentioned them here because as arts administrators and arts programmers, most of the work and the research relies on established communication and transportation networks, and that was not available to us. The kind of work that we do at IU or the city of Bloomington or Indianapolis is based on kind of metropolitan theories. And that had to be thrown out the window because we realized that we're dealing with a completely different part of the world. And so we had to reinvent what we know about arts administration from the ground up, from a rural perspective in particular. Jobs and economy is an issue that's been a very important topic for ROI and all of the other initiatives going on in the region at this time. We had to think clearly about the lack of capacity in these regions, the lack of economic growth, issues with employment and full employment, and we had to consider the ways that arts and culture could help round out the cultural life of each town. What is the true value and significance of having the arts and culture as a significant town investment? And what would that lead to? Connections to IU is important. There's very little transportation between these communities and the campus. That was a complete surprise to me when I started off. Athletics might get into the schools for sure, but the arts definitely not, and we had to build that transit. And we realized early on that we needed greater transit between these towns and our campus, and I'll explain why in a second. And of course, resources and capacity. We have a wonderful center, it's well-staffed, we have hundreds of arts programmers on campus, thousands of artists. Jacobs School of Music runs 1,400 performances each year. We're descending on towns with maybe one communications director and a mayor. That is incredibly overwhelming. In Nashville, I love to tell this story. There's a man who works at the Historical Society. He always wears a baseball cap that says STP on it. And he says, you know why I wear this cap? You know what this means? This is what this town runs on. Same 10 people. He loves making that joke. And it's a true joke. I mean, it really makes sense. There are very few people who can help us with this. We want to do great work, but people are busy. They have families. They have jobs. And IU has all these great intentions in the world, but sometimes towns aren't ready to receive them. So that's part of the capacity that we had to develop over time. In thinking about our programs, which I'll go through in a second, and I'll try to be faster when I do, we started to not only think about the arts, we started to think like artists. We realized that artists have a way of approaching certain spaces, certain times, certain materials in creative capacities, and we needed to be creative in our thinking as well. And we started to think about different arts and how they can be using or working with towns to rejuvenate and to renovate and to amplify the resources in each place. We borrow from visualization from creative artists in the way that they see new possibilities in a space or a landscape. Storytellers became very important, and storytelling is key to our programs in these towns. Storytelling builds identity. It creates a sense of a past. It provides towns with resiliency. Sculpture and movement are also important to us. The way that a sculptor thinks about materials, the way that a sculptor can pattern materials and resources, the way that dancers move through time. We thought a lot about the rhythms of our towns, the ways in which people move through them, the way transportation works through them, different rush hours, pedestrian pathways. We realized that to be successful, we weren't just bringing arts to these communities, but we were thinking like artists along with them and trying to reshape them in ways that made them inspiring and welcoming. Also, we began to realize how arts can be the basis of community. We have such a surplus on our campus. We have so many resources with dance and sculpture and painting and music. But we always are focused on the art object itself. As scholars, we think about the art object. But we had to change and shift our thinking about art as the basis of gathering people together, as focusing people's attention, focusing their hopes and dreams. And that was a really important shift for us as scholars, really, to think less about art in terms of high culture or value and think more of it as the basis of community building and formation. After about a year and a half of visiting dozens of towns, we settled on 3 of them that we particularly fell in love with, although we encountered many, many wonderful places. But we decided that we were going to stick with Huntingburg, Salem, and Nashville for the long haul, for the near future. Each of these towns presented us with a different profile of assets and strengths, as well as they each presented us with a way for us to do good, it seemed like. They each offered us an opportunity to kind of develop our strengths and actually make an impact. We'll meet some people from these towns in a second, but Huntingburg, I'm sure as many of you know, we've already kind of interacted with the very charismatic Mayor Spinner, who's sitting in the audience back there. He's a force of nature. He's very aware of what towns are doing today in terms of creative placemaking. They have built a new arts pavilion in downtown Huntingburg. They're widening their sidewalks to create art experiences. Huntingburg is a town on the make and is very interested and very aware of the ways that arts and culture can be used to enhance the economic character or profile of a community. And it's been such a pleasure to work with that community. It gives us so many great opportunities for our arts administration program to do good. Salem is a different story entirely. Salem is a town of mostly middle class and lower middle class families. The people that we met there are very concerned about their children and the art opportunities for them, the creative opportunities for their children. In Salem, we're working mostly with families and the schools. It's a different set of issues. What I heard most clearly in Salem, it was expressed by a band teacher, is that Salem has tons of talent, but no culture to support it. And what they really wanted us to do was to come in and model the creative life for people, to justify it, to affirm it for families and for other people in the town so that their kids had a fighting chance to develop their creative capacities. And it's been wonderful working in the schools and working with educators in Salem, Indiana. And then Nashville, of course, is an arts colony, a world-famous arts colony that is really been a highlight in the arts landscape for the state of Indiana. But Nashville is the oldest city, Brown County is the oldest county in the state. All of their programs are run by retired volunteers, and they are facing a significant succession crisis. They do not know who is going to be around to carry on the traditions of Brown County and Nashville in particular. And so they have asked us particularly for help with succession, of engaging a new generation of creative placemaking experts, and to make sure that Nashville has a future in the arts. So these are the different footings that these towns exist on, and those are the different kinds of issues that they've asked us to help with. We have developed what we're calling a town engagement program, and I'm sorry this is a little bit text heavy, but we have a mission statement, and the first half is about what we're trying to do with the communities, and the second half is about what we're doing on campus. As Lauren pointed out, this is a two-way street, and all of our initiatives in creative placemaking and quality of place are designed to help these communities as well as enhance and develop the campus as well. So on the town end, we are helping each community create a thriving art and culture infrastructure that supports local arts and culture institutions, enables community expression and reflection, exposes residents to new ideas and experiences, and increases local capacity in knowledge, infrastructure, and staffing, in ways that simultaneously, back on campus, create new educational and research opportunities for IU, attract new students and faculty to the work of the CRE, and open up possibilities for funding and other support. Everything that we've launched in each of these three towns and throughout the region has great benefits, not only in the communities, but for our faculty and students and for our classroom programs. And it's been wonderful to see the campus, and particularly the campus art, shift its footing, shift its attention away from the coasts, away from the cities, and finally turn to rural Indiana and the rural itself as a dynamic space for being an artist, for practicing art. I have 4 little slides here. This is the fun stuff. This is the colorful part of it. This is the arts and culture infrastructure segment that we are trying to build up. This is most of the work we've been doing over the last year. We've been launching a collaborative art series in each of those communities. We have performances from the Jacobs School of Music, contemporary dance, theater. We have exhibits from Traditional Arts Indiana, the Mathers Museum of World Culture. What's important about this art series is that it's collaborative in nature. From the start, we didn't want to just come in with an imperial attitude and just present a lot of amazing arts from IU in these towns. We wanted to make sure that each one of our presentations had both campus and community offerings involved. All of our exhibits have space for local artists. All of our performances have chances for local performers to also show off their strengths and talents. It is a genuine collaboration in each case. Artist exchanges and residencies, we are now both placing artists from campus in our communities, as well as bring community artists to campus. This is part of increasing the traffic between the two areas. We have an artist residency up in Nashville right now, one in Salem, and what's important is that we're not only giving artists chances to work, but when they're on the residency, they are providing workshops, classroom experiences, exhibit experiences. They are training these communities in the life of an artist, and they are working to help them create their own residencies in the long run. Strategic planning, this is key. We have an amazing arts administration program at IU, one of the best in the country. As Lauren mentioned, they have developed a new certificate in rural arts administration, the first in the country. They have dedicated multiple classes at each year to develop strategic planning projects for our communities. And so you see in the middle row there, we have a customer-centered design for Nashville Community Development, a Salem Community Arts Program, Center for Rural Engagement Strategic Plan for Huntingburg, Indiana. These plans contain model towns that might be used for these communities to develop their own work. They contain grant opportunities. They contain demographic information. These are 50, 60, 70-page documents. These are professional documents that can be used, literally come out of our classroom and can be used for these towns to develop their arts infrastructure. It's unbelievable that we've been able to do this work. And a big part of our project now is grants and corporate support. Exposure and expansion, these are the programs where we are most in the schools, K through 12 educational programs and workshops, campus visits, leaderships and pathways, and STEAM programs. I'll tell you one quick story about being in the schools. The theater department at IU wanted to put on a touring review, a touring cabaret. And it asked 12 undergraduate students to each pick a song that inspired them. And they had this wonderful program of only songs. And the director realized that this is something like kind of static about this. Instead of just songs, why don't you each write a monologue about your struggle to get to IU, about the challenges you face to realize your dream as an artist. And so each one of those students at IU wrote a little story that accompanied the song. And when they added those stories, the program just opened up. Because all of a sudden, they didn't just appear as kind of distant artists on stage. It wasn't just like an impossible dream. All of a sudden, the students in the audience realized, wow, there are pathways here. There are ways for me to do this as well. Being on the stage all of a sudden became very accessible and imaginable. And that switch didn't just change things for the theater department. All of our programs now, we realize that we can't just present something. We need to present them along with the pathways for students to realize that they can achieve them. So that's very important to us. We really kind of try to break that fourth wall and show students that this is possible for you as well. And that really changed everything, and I think it has made our programs much more welcoming, much more effective, much more inspiring along the way. Community self-expression and self-reflection. I don't have much time to get into this. It's clear to us all that the mechanism for communications between towns and within towns has become really stagnant. There aren't spaces, there aren't times, there just isn't the technology for towns to communicate with each other and for people to communicate with each other and express themselves and share ideas and share stories. This has to be built whole scratch in each of these communities. We have storytelling programs, collaborative curation, mapping and communication systems are really important, and Ghost Labs is an interesting concept that I can't talk about right now. And then capacity building. This is my dream. This is the dream of the CRE. This is the dream of the Quality of Place team. IU wants to create something in these towns that can last when IU is no longer there. It is very important to us. We want the change to be deep. We want the change to be lasting. And what that means is that we have to give each town the tools that they need to be able to run their own town engagement programs, to develop their own arts infrastructure. And it's going to be key, and this is the thing that we're turning to next, is to make sure that our community partners get the training that they need, have the skills that they need, develop the networks that are essential to success, so that IU isn't simply a life support system for the arts in each of these towns. We picked 3 towns, Salem, Huntingburg, Nashville. We hope to move on to others. But we're very committed to making sure that those 3 towns are on the right footing before we move on. It's important, local steering committees were absolutely essential. In each town, we empaneled about 8 to 10 people that were on board with our program. They became our front guard, and they're the ones who engage other community members in our work. Youth arts leadership groups is absolutely key. We're dealing with a region that is depopulated in many ways in terms of families and children. And so we have empaneled and empowered youths in each town to begin this work for their generation. Professional development opportunities, the Rural Arts Administration Certificate, and then this last one is something that I'm very keen, regional consortia and shared support systems. There are 16 small theaters, community theaters in the region, and they are each completely strapped in certain ways. Sometimes it's lighting, sometimes it's costuming, sometimes it's direction, sometimes it's acting. Our theater program at IU is working to meet with them regularly in order to share resources and knowledge and talent to make sure that they can all continue to run in the way that they want, in a way that they couldn't do it on their own. And it's amazing that IU can be a home to a regional theater consortium of this sort, and we have many more in the works. That's the gist of it, but I need to bring up our special guests because they are much more eloquent about this stuff and about the impact that it has on its towns. So, 2 guests are in the audience, people we worked very closely with. The first is Denny Spinner, Mayor of Huntingburg. He's been mayor since 2011. He's serving his 2nd term. He also serves as 2nd Vice President of the Executive Board for Accelerate Indiana Communities, the Executive Committee for Du Bois Strong, the Chief Elected Officer for Du Bois County on the Region 11 Workforce Investment Board, and he chairs the Huntingburg Stellar Committee, which earned the City Stellar designation, community designation from the state of Indiana in 2014. We also have Laura Hammock, Superintendent of Brown County Schools. Dr. Hammock has 21 years of leadership experience in the schools, in the classroom, as principal, as central office administrator, and superintendent. She earned a bachelor's degree in elementary education at DePaul University, a master's degree in special education at IU, and a doctorate of philosophy in educational leadership at Indiana State University. She also earned a principal's license and holds an educational specialist superintendent's license. She's a member of the Ivy Tech Bloomington Regional Board of Trustees. Can you please join me in welcoming these 2 great guests? Now, I could definitely just open the floodgates and let Mayor Spinner go on, but I have a couple of pointed questions, and once we get through those, we'll open it up to the audience. Maybe if both of you can just explain to us what you think your communities are seeking most in terms of public arts programs.
Me? Okay. Wow, that's a pretty loaded question. It kind of goes back to, I want to go back to kind of how we got together, and that kind of explains that question maybe a little bit. We were fortunate, as Ed mentioned, to earn a Stellar Communities designation, and one of our major projects for that Stellar designation was a downtown urban park that had a performance pavilion as part of its structure. And it was a great vision that the community came together and said, this is what we want. And then it became like, the dog that chases the car. Now that we got it, what are we going to do with it? We had this great facility now sitting right in the heart of the city, and we really didn't know how to engage the community with it, how to bring in the right types of events and what's going to make this a part of our quality of place in Huntingburg. And I guess about a year ago, I was probably in this building or somewhere close to here when I heard about this IU rural engagement idea, and I called some folks and I said, I want to know more about this. And really, we didn't, the question he asked is, how do we didn't know. We really didn't know what we wanted, but we knew we needed something. And through the relationship with the listening tour, they came down and they listened to us. And I remember the first visit that Ed made to Huntingburg. We walked down the street and we were just talking about things that what are the assets of our community? What are the things we're missing? What are the things we need to add? And it just became very evident to me and the team that's kind of informed that there was a unique opportunity in rural communities to have this engagement with IU as what a tremendous resource is just an hour and 20 minutes up the road from us. And to have IU open the gate and say, here, we're going to come down and we're going to help you. And it has been a learning experience in how to communicate with each other on how this happens, because like as Ed mentioned, it was pretty daunting the first time, you know, like I said, IU's coming to town, they're going to help us. And you go, oh, wow. You know, but then the conversation started. And I think that it's been, you know, what we see in Huntingburg right now is we're in a lot of structural change, but the structural change has got to lead to something else. Its quality of place has got to lead to more than just structural change. It's got to change how we react as a community, and using the heritage that we have a deep, you know, there's a reason why in every one of these rural towns in this region, there's a reason why people live there. There's a reason why people live in Huntingburg. There's a reason why people live in Salem, and there's a reason why people live in Nashville. And tapping into that and having people have an opportunity to talk about what that is really important. So bringing the arts, the connection to the arts for us was just something that we as a rural community, as a small community, didn't have an opportunity to really engage in. So I don't know if I've answered the question yet, Heather. But you know, so this connection has just been tremendous for us to allow us to think about what are the possibilities and to help us down the path of finding out what is it that we want to be as a community, not only from the structure and the infrastructure that the city deals with, but the quality of place that we need to be in. Having a quality of place is not an option. If we don't have a quality of place, we're not going to be a place. So we cannot, you know, it's not an option. We've got to explore every opportunity we have, and having a great resource like IU to come along and be our partner in this has just been very phenomenal. So.
Yeah, Ed, the story for Brown County is very much like what you touched on earlier, which was definitely using our engagement with this really extraordinary work to help Brown County connect some of the divides that I think were absolutely present, and divides that I didn't necessarily know even existed. I'm recalling the first time that, you know, Indiana University rolled up to Brown County and Ed was sitting at the table and he helped facilitate a conversation where I was just a member of an audience where Ed was eliciting information from Brown County. And I was really struck in that conversation because around the table were artists, local artists who I knew. We see each other at lots of community events, but what I had never heard from the artists before was the fact that they felt like there was a significant disconnect between them as artists and the schools. And that was a really tough thing to hear, but it was an extraordinarily important thing to hear. And so the work that we've been able to engage in over this last year with the Center for Rural Engagement has been to that end, to try to bridge the conversations and the relationships between our artists and use the resources from Indiana University to help advance that end. And it really has been just a beautiful development because it sort of, what you spoke to earlier, Ed, was such a connection for me. This idea of neighbors as opposed to IU, right? So in the beginning, you know, Ed and Adrienne were rolling up from IU from the CRE, and then now, you know, as these individuals that we didn't know, and now it's like I get to see friends, right, at engagements, and it's just a really beautiful thing. The divides are being broken down by this work, and that has fundamentally, positively impacted the quality of life and really the experience of the residents and the students of Brown County.
Thank you. Thanks. Mayor Spitter, can you talk a little bit about how you see or envision the arts being leveraged to attract and retain workforce and enhance economic development in Huntingburg?
Well, we're blessed in Du Bois County and in Huntingburg with a very robust economy. We have, Du Bois County has one of the, if not every month, we're in the top 1 or 2 in the state in unemployment rate. Right now we're at about 2.3% unemployment in Du Bois County, which sounds like a great thing, but it's also a tremendous challenge because we have these manufacturers that have been historically in Du Bois County. I've got 2 major employers right now in Du Bois County that are going to spend $30 to $40 million over the next 2 years to stay in Huntingburg. And I really think that part of that reason why they're deciding to make that investment is because of this type of engagement, because they feel now confident that if we can get engaged and bring the variety of life to Huntingburg, that there's reason for them to attract the workforce that they need. You know, that's one of the keys to having the workforce available to fill those jobs that are right here in our hometown, is they want to have the experience of what can you do in a rural community. You're not going to miss the boat because you're living in a town of 6,000 people. You're going to have a chance to engage with the arts. You're going to have a chance to see things. You're going to have a chance for your kids to be engaged in the arts in this way. And you mentioned the Hamilton's performance, and they came to Southridge, and they did Hamilton's, and you know they had the 5 or 6 musicians from the Jacobs School of Music and 6 kids from Southridge High School choir that spent the day together and then performed that night. And just, you know, like, you know, that experience was just amazing. And the parents of those kids were just like, really, our kids can do something like this? Yeah. So, I mean, that's part of, really, from an economic development standpoint, it's part of the big package. And it's a challenge, you know, for rural communities. We, as Ed mentioned, you know, the resources that we have to throw towards this are very limited. You know, I mean, I'm excited about it, and I get too excited about it, and all of a sudden, all these people have to do this work that I get excited about, and then there's a limited number of people that can do this. But having a resource like IU to guide us through this process early on, and get to the point where we can sustain it is something that's. But from an purely economic, I look at it from just an economic development aspect for our community. Again, it's not an option. We have to have these things. We have to have this kind of engagement in our community, or we're not going to exist anymore. We've got to have, you know, those pieces of life that people want to have to improve their quality of life and feel like I can live in Huntingburg, Indiana, and still get the full experience of community life and art and culture and sports and everything that goes along with it. And making that investment is just part. Making the structural investment is just part of it. You've got to have the tools to go along with it.
And Superintendent Hammock, maybe you can talk briefly about students in your schools, and particularly their needs for the arts, and how you see this partnership with IU being useful to them.
Absolutely. You know, after our most recent engagement with the center, we had a 2-day experience where individuals from IU Classical Connections, which is a offshoot student group from the Jacobs School of Music, came over and embedded with the students for the entire school day on Friday, and then on Saturday, the students came to the high school. They spent the entire day together on Saturday and ultimately worked on pieces to be able to play together. And I tell you what, when I walked into the Brown County High School auditorium and heard our high school students playing alongside of IU Jacobs School of Music, the individual that was standing next to me, I might have said a word that's not appropriate for any audience like this, but I was like, damn, they sound good. Because I mean, really, when you have IU School of Music sitting alongside Brown County High School, they sounded really good. But to your point, Ed, sorry, I got a little off track there. The next week, I was walking down the hall at Brown County High School, and one of our band students, literally, she just came running up to me, and she's like, Dr. Hammock, oh my gosh, I got to spend the whole day, you know, playing clarinet, right, with this individual from Jacobs School of Music. Y'all, I have never had a student roll up to me at Brown County High School and say, I just took the I-STEP test. It was amazing, right? Like, so these experiences, I mean it when I say it. These experiences are memories that are being made, and they are laying the foundation for our students who do not get the opportunity to come over to Indiana University. It's 25 minutes between our town hall and the courthouse in Monroe County. Yet, we have students who their first experience getting to Indiana University is when we take them on a field trip for sort of a college visit experience. So these opportunities, they just cannot be understated. There is inspiration, there is hope, there is the understanding and idea that this thing that I love to do, this band class, the show choir, this theater that I do after school, that ultimately that could absolutely be a connection for me in my future. That's an incredible story that we get to tell our students, and it's experiences like these that make that happen.
Thank you. Thanks. I think we do need to break in a minute because the breakout sessions are occurring in just a few. I can't overstate the importance of the idea of horizons in this instance, because we presumably live in a flat state, and it's not flat at all, and it's much more diverse than we often acknowledge.
Northern Indiana's flat.
Southern Indiana is not at all. But as soon as we started working in the region, we began to think a lot about horizons, and really not just IU as a horizon for these students or for these communities, but the region as a horizon for IU. That is something that's been so sorely lacking in the 20 years that I've been at IU, really until the Provost has taken this initiative with the Center for Rural Engagement. All of a sudden, Southern Indiana became a destination for teachers who want to teach, and for students who want to learn, and for artists who want to perform or create. And all this just opened up everything for us. There are new pipelines, there are new transitions, there are new goals for our students. And it really has only been happening in the last 2 years, and it's because people on the other end have been so receptive and open to that. And so if there's one just takeaway for me, and one thing that I just want to stress here, is that IU has gained such an opportunity through this initiative to work with the state and be invested in the state on so many different levels. And it really, it's become a much more exciting and dynamic place because of these connections that we've built with these communities. So that's it for now. Thank you so much. Thank you to our guests. I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Ed and Laura and Denny. We are very fortunate to have leaders like you in our region. And I think this really accentuates the fact that all of our communities have assets. And those assets, when brought together with the right leadership, can really bring an entire community together. So we're delighted to have all of you as our neighbors, and thank you for opening your doors to Indiana University, and also to allowing us to learn from you all. It is now time to move to our breakout sessions, and we have some great ones at 1 o'clock. We'll ask facilitators in there maybe to delay till 1:05 to get you some time to get there. Thank you again for being with us, and we're excited to continue to engage with you.